Welcome friends to this 10,000 subscriber special video where I'm going to do my first ever Q&A. First of all, I have to say an absolutely sincere thank you to every single person who has subscribed to the channel, who's helped me hit this 10K milestone. Whether you've watched a single video of mine or all of them, I am super grateful, so thank you so much for getting me here. So these questions have come from a mixture of a YouTube community post I put out, Instagram, and a video I just did about my guitar collection, so I'm going to piece these all together. I've only skimmed through these briefly, so I'm going into these questions totally cold. I haven't prepared any answers to them because I just thought it would be better, like a bit more authentic if I just answered them off the cuff. So let's give this a go. Death Raven asks, how did you get started playing guitar and also some of the first songs you learned? I had my first guitar lesson when I was 13. I was a nu metal kid. I was really into all the early 2000s nu metal bands like Slipknot, Korn, all that type of thing, Marilyn Manson, so it was a very natural thing to want to learn to play the guitar because I really liked the music, obviously, that's like a no-brainer. So I had my first guitar lesson at 13. I was taught guitar privately for about a year and a half, 2 years by a fantastic guy called Anton Mullen, who's done lots of TV show soundtracks, particularly he worked a lot in children's television. And the thing I remember about those lessons is we spent just as much time physically sort of focused on the instrument as we did talking about the mindset of a creative. And we talked a lot about like the attitude, the kind of mindset of a musician, the kind of person that you should probably aspire to be if you want to be a successful musician as well. And it was a really like probably unconventional, like holistic way of being taught the guitar, but it was like incredibly valuable, and there were things I learned back then that I still employ today, really. So shout out to Anton if you're watching. I know he does watch the channel. Love to you and the family, my friend. I remember the first song I learnt on the guitar was Everybody Hurts by REM. We were studying chords at the nut, you know, D major, C major, G major, all that type of thing. And we were practicing the changes between the chords, which is always a nightmare if you're learning guitar. You learn the chord and then you learn another chord, and then you have to train yourself to be able to change positions and have all your fingers land at the same time. So that was the very first song I learned on guitar. I played guitar all throughout my teenage years until I was about 18, 19. I played in thrash metal bands. I gigged all over the south of the UK, must have done God knows how many live shows. Had a great time. I kind of fell out of love with music and playing guitar. By the time I was about 20, I went off and focused on other things, my career, bodybuilding, all that sort of stuff. And then around COVID time, 2020, I got back into playing guitar and completely fell in love with it again. I was just a totally different person, completely approached it with a totally different attitude. I decided to get back into playing guitar just for me, just to express myself, write music, had no rules at all about what that music would be, what it needed to sound like, nothing. I was just like, right, I'm just gonna have an outlet for myself that's separate from my filmmaking business, and we'll see where it goes. And here we are, I'm answering questions from you fine folks, and we've got a semi-successful YouTube channel, I think. I'm really pleased with the way it's going, so. Camaraderie McDermott has two questions for me. Number one, what made you realise which avenue of guitar-related music you wanted to put out into the world? And I guess by extension, what were your biggest inspirations for that? So predominantly I put two different flavours of guitar out into the world with my music, the things I play on the channel. For those of you who don't know, 95, like 98% of everything I play in all of my videos, all guitar reviews, everything is something I have written just for that video. So I try and come up with a new riff, a new song idea, a new piece of music for every single video. Most of the time, surprisingly, I do manage it. There are some times where I may repeat myself and I will play riffs from songs I've done or riffs I've used in previous videos, but like most of the time, if I'm reviewing a guitar, and especially if I really like the guitar, I will try and write something on it, you know, and if it's a guitar I really like, I'll be inspired by it. So the stuff I write falls into two flavors. It's either ambient guitar. I really like ambient stuff where there's like a 20-30 second reverb, you know, really inspired by Pink Floyd stuff, Devin Townsend stuff. I really enjoy that kind of ambient wash type sound, and I gravitate towards that, and I write a bunch of kind of mellow, clean ambient stuff. And then the other flavor is like chuggy 7-string downtuned metal, inspired by all the kind of early 2000s metal bands, Fear Factory, Nevermore, Opeth, Decapitated. I'm really like coming from that angle with those styles of things. So when I started to really seriously get back into playing guitar, I kind of made a deal with myself, and that deal was I am solely getting back into playing guitar to express myself. I'm not getting back into it to play other people's music. And I've really only learned songs for the YouTube channel, like where I've sort of learned Metallica stuff to review the Kirk Hammett signature guitar, and that was a fucking nightmare. God, Metallica stuff is difficult, the good Metallica stuff anyway. So I don't really know, like honestly, I sit down with a guitar, I write stuff, I have zero rules, I have zero like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and write something really X, whatever that may be. I just start noodling, whatever comes out, comes out. Sometimes it's fit for public consumption, and you can check out singles I've done under my band project Kill Deluxe. Here's a link and a couple of music videos for you to check out. But like, I think that's the key thing, is like just whatever comes out, comes out. You know, if it's clean ambient stuff, great. If it's metal, brilliant. If what comes out is worthy of being made into a song, I will do my best to do that. If it's just an idea that's in the moment and it's good enough for just playing on my own, I mean, that's totally fine. You know, and that's really what I want to do at this stage in my life, is I just want to sit down, write music just for me that I enjoy. If nobody ever hears what I'm writing, that's totally fine with me. I don't mind at all. Equally, if it's something I'm going to put out into a guitar review or whatever, that's totally fine as well. The key thing is don't judge yourself. Whatever you write, that's perfectly good enough, and that's what you have to say at the moment. Equally, if you sit down to play guitar and you go through a period of writer's block where you just can't write sod all, I try not to get frustrated at that. I try to just tell myself, well, I have nothing to say at the moment musically, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Have you noticed personal changes in the way you look at life or products after having a channel for a while? That's a really good question, actually. Thank you for that. Personal changes, yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing the channel has probably done for me is number one, made me a lot more open-minded about gear. So before I started the channel, I had an idea about what I liked guitar-wise, what's good, and you know, if this guitar has X pickups, well, it's not for me. It's really opened my mind. I will play and try anything. I will review and try anything for the channel, and some of the most joyful and enjoyable moments of this channel have been reviewing pieces of gear that I would just otherwise not even try. Like the Ibanez Tim Henson I've just reviewed is a great example of that. I would look at that guitar on a wall in a guitar shop and go, that's just not for me, I'm not even gonna bother. But because I run this channel, because I have a really great partnership with Live Louder, I got the opportunity to review it, and I was just shocked how much I enjoyed that guitar. I'm really not a Strat guy, but for some reason I just really got on with it, loved the way it sounded. So I guess that's one massive thing the channel has done for me. It's really opened my mind to gear, and I will literally try anything. I'll try a 50s Dumble valve amplifier if somebody wants me to do a video on that. You know, there is nothing I won't really do. Obviously I have my personal go-to, which is metal and ambient guitar, but that's what I really do. The other thing the channel has done for me is it's kind of given me confidence that like what I have to say and who I am is valued. There is value in that. People do want to hear what I have to say. People do want to watch what I have to do. And as somebody who has lived their whole life with massive swings in their self-esteem and has struggled with self-worth and all that type of thing, putting out guitar-based content, getting incredible, really kind feedback, far nicer than I thought I would get from comments and subscribers on the channel. It's done a lot to help me realise that I do have something to say. It is worth hearing, and I think that's a real gift of this project so far. Jared Camden 650 asks, what's a couple of your all-time favourite albums? So, that's such a difficult question. So, Ghost Reveries by Opeth, in my opinion, is a perfect album, okay? It's not just a collection of decent songs. It's an experience from the opening minute till the final minute that works as a cohesive collection of songs, just unbelievable. Quick story, my first ever job after I left college required me to get 4 buses to get to it. So I had to get 2 buses there, I had to get 2 buses home. And Opeth's back catalogue, but particularly Ghost Reveries, got me through countless hours of bus journeys, man. And I'm so grateful to Opeth for having got me through just such a bleak time in my life where I was just working a crap job with a long commute. That's the first one that springs to mind. So that's a metal choice. You asked for a couple, so I'll give you one more, which is maybe a bit more out of left field, which is the soundtrack album to season 1 of the TV show Westworld. That is my go-to relaxation album on Spotify. Like if I've had a hard day or I've done a really stressful long day's shooting, when I'm driving back, I will stick that album on. Westworld is my favourite TV show of all time. I have a Westworld sleeve that I recently got done. Yes, I know the quality of the show dropped off in later seasons, but I don't care. Westworld season 1 soundtrack album, incredibly beautiful soundtrack, just one of the best soundtracks to anything I've ever heard in my opinion. Give it a go. Please do watch the show Westworld, it's really worth watching, one of my favourites. From Spirit 7303, my buddy Royce is a luthier and he's the man behind Deviant Guitars. Would you be willing to review one of his guitars? Deviant Guitars, I've actually seen some of their stuff on Instagram. Like they do crazy like metal focused stuff, a lot of Evertune bits and pieces. Are they based in the UK? I imagine that would be kind of a prerequisite unless they're willing to ship me something internationally. But to answer your question, absolutely, I am always open to collabing and reviewing guitars, no matter how big or small. Here is my email address. You can get hold of me directly there. Drop me a line and we'll work something out. Tommy Guns asks, can you give tips on starting a guitar YouTube channel? Maybe mistakes to avoid? I could do like a whole video on starting and running a YouTube channel and the lessons I've learned and maybe the mistakes I've made and oh man. So I'll try and give you some like general things that I've applied to this YouTube channel, and these are also things I've applied in life and in business. Number 1 would be always be in a process of refinement. So no matter what you're doing, whether it's a job, your own business, YouTube, anything, look at it and say, what could be better? Give yourself some credit, just say things went well, you go, yeah, that went well. That's a mistake I've made. I've only ever been my worst critic and I've never really allowed myself to enjoy much of the success I've had. But I think something that has really worked for me in life, business, and with this YouTube channel is I am constantly looking at what can be improved. It's a process of refinement. If you look at a video I release now compared to a video I released 12 months ago, you will see drastic changes in the camera angles, the lighting, the whole way I'm doing it, because I am constantly looking for that improvement. Over time, it will probably be a case of diminishing returns where you will need to put in the same amount of effort just to get like a 1% improvement. But please, I would encourage you and anyone else to have that mindset. No matter what you're doing, look at it and go, what can we improve? What's next? What could be better? There's guitar YouTubers I follow that I really enjoy, but it's kind of a shame when I watch one of their videos and it looks exactly the same as one of their videos from 5 years ago. And that's kind of reflected in their following and their subscriber count. They will have reached a sort of plateau and they won't really have gone much beyond that subscriber count. And I personally think that's because there's an attitude of like resting on their laurels. You know, they're using the same camera and the same lenses and the same setup from 6-7 years ago. You know, I'm all for finding a kind of format that works, but there is this kind of laying back, this is what I'm going to do now for the rest of time. And I don't really get any joy in that. The joy I get is being able to look at something I've done, look at it from the beginning and look at it now and see, wow, what a journey I've been on. You know, how much better is that thing now than it was when I started. I get so much satisfaction out of that. So starting a YouTube channel, that would be my kind of big #1 thing. On a less serious note, if you look at what you need in 2024 to start a guitar YouTube channel, well, look, #1, essential is you need a huge wall of guitar amp heads behind you that you never play. That is absolutely essential. You need about 100 grand's worth of amp heads behind you that you basically like might have used once in a video for each one, but other than that, they are just sat there as expensive kind of set dressing. #2, you absolutely must make either this face or this face in all of your thumbnails and imply that something horrific has gone wrong, or you have a massive controversial opinion about something just to get the clicks in, even if you really don't have much negative or controversial to say. Third of all, you absolutely must, and I'm guilty of this, have some type of LED coloured lighting behind you. Absolutely essential. You cannot call yourself a YouTuber unless you have some sort of coloured LED lighting as your backdrop. So those are the 3 essential things you need for a guitar YouTube channel in 2024. Don't even try to start a YouTube channel without those 3 things. Sharkmouth9 asks, what are some go-to exercises you always use in your practice routine? Well, I will say that, like most guitarists, I do not practice and do exercises nearly as much as I probably should. But the big one I use to warm up, which I pretty much always try and do before I shoot a video or something like that, is just chromatic scales up and down the neck. So So first of all, I'll do an alternate picked version down at the 1st fret, and I'll start really slowly. And then I'll move it up to the 12th fret. And then I'll alternate, so I'll go back to 1st, up to 12, and then I'll do a down-picked version. And if you want to improve your tightness and dexterity, do that, both the alternate picked and down picked versions, to a metronome. Start the metronome slow, very, very slowly and gradually work up your speed on the metronome and practice getting ultra accurate with those exercises. That's always been something that's worked well, both as a warm-up and as something to train myself to get tighter and play more accurately. Whole Lot of Bulldog asks, if you could plug into only one thing indefinitely, what would it be? Amp modeler, profiler, etc. Kemper. It's pretty, yeah, I didn't really have to think about that one. I have tried pretty much every amp modeling product or brand under the sun, more or less. apart from I've never featured a Fractal Audio product on the channel, but I have an FM9 Mark II coming to me from Big Fish Rentals, which I'm going to do a video on with me trying a Fractal Audio product for the first time. So unless the Fractal Audio product just blows my socks off, it's Kemper every single time. Yes, the user interface, the user experience on Kemper is like grossly out of date at this point. It is like operating something from 10 years ago, because that's what it is. But it's not just that Kemper sounds so good, and it really does sound like the real amplifier if you've got a good profile going. It's just the fact that it feels so much like a real amplifier. Like, there is such a lack of latency with Kemper. There is such a genuineness to the way it responds, at least in my opinion and to my ears anyway. So I will take a good Kemper profile over anything else any day of the week. I am playing through my Kemper right now. I've got the foot switch remote on the floor. It is out of date. It badly needs like a new revision, but purely based on tone and feel, I just absolutely adore the way Kemper stuff still sounds. And there's probably a reason that in every single recording studio across the world you will find a Kemper product, and pretty much 90% of backlines will have a Kemper in it. It's just a total like industry standard product. Longman Riffs asks, what's your all-time favorite guitar tone on a record? And also congrats on the imminent 10K, man. Thank you very much, Longman Riffs, and for the question. My all-time favorite guitar tone on a record, that's so difficult to answer. The things that spring to mind are the second, third and fourth Fear Factory albums. So Demanufacture, Obsolete and Digimortal. That's an example of like a perfectly mixed metal guitar sound in my opinion. The issue with that particular guitar tone, and quite honestly the issue with something like the JST Fear Factory plugin that recently came out, is I find that the Fear Factory guitar tone doesn't sound great on its own. It sounds crushing and awesome in a mix. But if you take like a profiled sound of those guitar tones, they don't sound great in the room. So all-time favorite guitar tone, like generally I like a metal guitar tone to have a lot of bite. So a lot of kind of high mid saturation, that feeling that when you're picking the note, it's really kind of biting back at you and it's quite tight. You know, anything from Peavey is pretty good at that. One record that I don't ever hear anybody talking about that has a perfect example of this kind of really like bitey mid-range metal guitar tone is a record called Tempo of the Damned by Exodus. It came out around 2004, I think, produced by Andy Sneap. Go and listen to that album, and that's pretty much my perfect metal guitar tone. I don't know, no idea what they recorded it on. It sounds like an EMG 81 to me. I don't know the amplifier, but go listen to War Is My Shepherd, that song off Tempo of the Damned. Tell me that isn't just the most awesome kind of gnarly, like attitudey, bitey metal guitar sound. It's just sick. Avidia Music asks, what's the piece of gear that impressed you the most so far in 2024? Okay, just in 2024, let me think. That's pretty easy. I'd have to say it's the Hot Tone Ampero Mini that I reviewed a couple of months back on the channel. Tiny little, like about that big modeler, absolutely tiny, like 200 quid price point, which I kept going on about in the video. But it's a tiny touchscreen modeler. It's the first time I tried a Hot Tone product. I got it in for review and I was just expecting it to be one of those products where it's like, it's all right, but what do you want for the price? Do you know what I mean? Kind of like maybe the Valaton products are, you know, where it's like they're cheap, but they're perfectly serviceable. Like they're not going to blow your socks off with the way they sound, but for something cheap, it's like, it's totally fine. You know, you can't have expectations beyond that. What the Hot Tone Ampero Mini did was it just sounded like something that costs like 3 or 4 times that amount. The amp models in it were a little bit of a mixed bag. You know, there was some, they were mostly good, but there was a couple that were just like not great. But once you got it dialed in, you got a decent IR on there, I was like, man, this sounds as good as like anything around the 600-700 quid price point. And I was just shocked how good the tones were I could get out of it. I was shocked at like how great the amp model selection was, how great the effects were. I'm definitely gonna get another hot tone product in on the channel soon. It just totally exceeded my expectations, really, that product. Max Reese 9534 asks, question for Q&A, what is your favorite real amp, as in not a plugin or a modeler? I would say I do own a PV Ultra Plus, which is, I don't keep it here because it's just I don't have room for it. But that's an amp that preceded the 5150. So before the 5150 came out, you had the PV Ultra Plus, which is basically a 5150 with a really nice clean channel. It's a little bit looser than a 5150 maybe, but it's just epic sounding. I used to gig with that thing back in my teens, used to haul that, oh, so heavy, used to haul it around to venues, and 150 watt USA made, all tube PV amp head. Good God, that thing was loud. That thing could move air. Like you could feel it. It was like being in a wind tunnel stood in front of a 4x12 with that thing running. So epic amplifier. I will dig it out of storage and I'll do a video on it for you guys. It just sounds absolutely killer. Other than that, the PRS MT15, that little valve amplifier that PRS made as a kind of little signature amp for Mark Tremonti a few years ago, that's an unbelievably good sounding mini amp head. If you can get your hands on one of those, you will just be blown away by how, first of all, how good it sounds for the money. I think it's like 450 quid, something like that, and it's got a really, really nice clean channel, and the high gain stuff on it is, it's almost like a slightly compressed rectifier. It's quite smooth sounding, quite a lot of low end, almost like, it's like a really well compressed overdriven rectifier, the high gain stuff on it. The clean channel is absolutely beautiful on it as well. But the other thing about it is it's rated at sort of 15 watts, I think, on paper. It is so much louder than a 15 watt amp. I think I read somewhere that actually it's more like a 30 watt amp. It's all valve, so you can easily gig with that. You can easily rehearse with it. I must get one back in on the channel soon. Little PRS MT15 head, like, gotta be one of the best amps to have come out in the last 10 years. Absolutely check one of those out if you can. J Barber117 asks, a handful of your guitars have kill switches. Which brand of kill switch would you say is your favorite? Looking to install one myself, not sure which ones are good out there. I always go for Tessie LED kill switches. They're really cheap, they're like 10-15 quid, I think. They are small, which is crucial because it means you don't have to make a massive hole in your guitar, and they respond really well. The actual travel of the switch is really, really short. It's just a little touch it needs, so you can do some really cool, like bucket head style kill switch playing on one of them. And they are color coded, so they have literally all the colors under the sun. There's a little LED colored ring that glows, and it's just a really cool little thing to have on your guitar, even if you don't really use it. I've had Tessie kill switches installed on my 7-string Solar, and I also had one installed on my Arctic Burst Legator that didn't come with one. Just something to bear in mind if you're looking to get a Tessie LED kill switch installed, it will eat the battery on your guitar a little bit if you have active pickups. I've got a bunch of guitars with Fishman pickups and Tessie LED kill switches, and they just eat batteries for lunch. I'll be lucky to get 30-40 hours maybe out of a 9-volt battery, whereas if I just have a kind of non-Tessie, say EMG equipped guitar, I'll get like 150 hours out of a battery. So it's just something to bear in mind. Fishman pickups are quite thirsty battery wise. If you also install a Tessie LED kill switch, you are going to be chewing through 9-volt batteries quite quickly, so just bear that in mind. From Instagram, Chris de Montejo says, give me a guitar. I can't do that right now. We did run a guitar giveaway for subscribers over Christmas, and I am going to do another one of those just as soon as I can afford it, so stay tuned. You may find at some point I do give you a guitar. So that is the end of my first ever Q&A video to celebrate 10,000 subscribers. Once again, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I am going to do another one of these as soon as we hit 15K to celebrate, so let's get cracking. If you watch this channel, if you've ever watched or enjoyed one of my videos, just press that little subscribe button below the video. I would appreciate it so much. It fuels me and encourages me to keep grafting away at the content for you. Also, a massive thank you to everybody who's donated via the Buy Me a Coffee page since I set it up. I really didn't think I would even get a penny of interest through it, so the support I've had through there has been really surprising, and I'm so grateful for it, so thank you so much for that. Until the next chill review, do take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.